curse of the Hallowed Hills. In the sleepy Irish village of Glenferrie, the locals spoke in hushed tones about the Hallowed Hills, an ancient burial site said to be cursed. Legends warned that the hills were home to something far worse than ghosts, leprechauns. But not the whimsical, gold-hoarding tricksters of children's tales. No, these creatures were twisted, feral versions of their myth. Molly O'Brien had heard the stories growing up, but she never believed them. She was a skeptic, a university student home for the summer. When her friends dared her to spend a night camping near the Hallowed Hills, she laughed it off, and agreed. What harm could a few fairy tales do? On a cool autumn evening, Molly and her friends packed their gear and set off. The moon was full, casting eerie shadows over the landscape. As they approached the hills, an unnatural silence fell over them, as if the very land held its breath. The birds had stopped singing, and the usual sounds of wildlife were absent. They set up camp near a stone circle, its origin unknown. The locals claimed it was a portal to the other world, but Molly scoffed. They lit a fire and passed around drinks, laughing nervously to shake off the creeping sense of unease. But as the night deepened, a low, haunting wind began to stir, carrying with it a faint sound. At first it was just a distant giggle, like a child's laughter, but then it grew louder, sharper, until it became something sinister. What was that? Asked Sean, the most superstitious of the group. Probably just the wind, Molly replied, though her voice wavered. But the sound continued. Closer now. Laughter, followed by the soft patter of feet. It circled the camp, but no one could see its source. The fire flickered violently and the air grew colder. Then, from the darkness, they saw them. Tiny figures, no taller than 3 feet, darted between the trees. Their faces were grotesque, twisted caricatures of human features. Their eyes glowed an unnatural yellow, and their grins were filled with sharp, jagged teeth. They wore ragged, tattered clothes, stained with mud, and something darker. They're just animals, Molly said, her voice shaking, trying to rationalize it. But deep down, she knew better. The leprechauns moved faster than any animal could, their cackling laughter echoing in the night. Suddenly, one of them lunged forward and snatched Sean's backpack. He screamed and tried to grab it back, but the creature slashed at him with long, clawed fingers, leaving deep gashes in his arm. Run! Molly shouted, grabbing her flashlight. The group scattered, sprinting into the dense woods, but the leprechauns were faster. They toyed with them, appearing out of nowhere to block their path or trip them, their laughter never ceasing. Molly's heart pounded as she ran deeper into the woods, her friends' screams fading into the distance. She stumbled upon a large stone, covered in strange symbols. Beneath it was a small mound, its entrance barely visible. Desperate, she crawled inside. The mound was cold and damp, the walls lined with bones. Human bones. Molly realized with horror that she had found their lair. She pressed herself against the wall, trying to stay silent as she heard the leprechauns outside, sniffing the air, searching for her. Hours passed, though it felt like days. The giggles eventually faded, replaced by the stillness of the night. Cautiously, Molly emerged from the mound, only to find the camp in ruins. Her friends were gone, their belongings scattered and torn. Blood stained the grass, but there were no bodies. The villagers never found Molly's friends, and when she told them what had happened, they only nodded solemnly. They knew the truth, but no one ever dared speak of it. The Hallowed Hills had claimed more victims, and they always would. Molly left Glenferrie the next day, never to return. But sometimes, on quiet nights, she still heard the faint sound of giggling, as if the leprechauns had followed her, waiting for the right moment to strike again.